Some people are broke because their bank account is empty, but there is a second group, people who earn well, live comfortably, and yet they feel broke every single second. They have the money, but they don't have the peace. They survive, they spend, they save, but the feeling of being one step away from total ruin never leaves them. It's not a financial problem, it's a psychological haunting. And if you've ever felt guilty for buying a coffee despite having $1,000 in the bank, psychology has a brutal explanation for why. For the anxious mind, money doesn't create security. It creates a higher ceiling for anxiety. When you're broke, the goal is simple, get money. But once you have it, the goal becomes a moving target. Don't lose it. This creates a toxic cognitive loop. Earning doesn't feel like a win. It feels like a temporary relief. Spending feels like a betrayal of your future self. And saving never feels safe enough. Your brain stops asking, how do I grow? And starts screaming, what if I lose it all tomorrow? In this loop, abundance isn't a blessing. It's just more to lose. Your brain is a survival expert, and it has a long memory for pain. If you grew up in a house where the lights were turned off, or if you once spent a year checking your balance before every grocery trip, your nervous system was rewired for combat. Psychologists call this financial trauma. Even when the danger is gone, your brain stays in the trenches. It ignores the reality of your current balance and focuses on the memory of the struggle. It's like an internal alarm system that's still ringing, even though the fire was put out 10 years ago. You live like you're broke because your brain hasn't realized you're safe yet. We treat money like a tool, but deep down, we use it as a shield. Money represents control over your choices, your health, and your status. When someone is obsessed with feeling broke, they aren't actually afraid of poverty. They are afraid of helplessness. This fear manifests as micromanagement stress. You overthink a $1 expense because in your mind, that $10 is a brick in the wall keeping you safe. You avoid calculated risks, not because you're irresponsible, but because any risk feels like a threat to your autonomy. You aren't being careful. You are being paralyzed by the fear of losing your grip on the world. In 2026, we don't measure wealth by our needs, we measure it by our feeds. This is money dysmorphia. You can be in the top 10% of earners, but if your entire social circle is in the top 1%, you will feel like a failure. The brain doesn't interpret wealth as an absolute number. It interprets it as a rank. When you see someone else's highlight reel of luxury, your brain interprets being behind as being at risk. It triggers the same survival alarm as actual poverty. You feel broke because you are comparing your behind-the-scenes struggles to everyone else's front-row success. The most dangerous stage is when feeling broke becomes your personality. If you spent years saying, I can't afford that, or money doesn't stay with me, you've built an identity around struggle. Once your brain adopts an identity, it works overtime to find evidence for it. This is confirmation bias. You will ignore the $5,000 in your savings and obsess over the $50 parking ticket. You will find reasons why things will go wrong even when they are going right. Because to the brain, being right about being a victim is safer than being wrong about being successful. The reason this mindset is so hard to break is that it disguises itself as a virtue. It feels logical to be worried. It feels responsible to be stressed. You tell yourself you're just being realistic or disciplined. But there's a thin line between discipline and a prison sentence. Discipline is using money to buy freedom. This mindset uses money to buy more worry. If your carefulness is stealing your ability to enjoy the life you worked for, it's not your responsibility. It's fear in a suit and tie. Feeling broke isn't always about what's in your wallet. It's about what's in your memory. It's a byproduct of fear, history, and the way your brain learned to survive a world that felt unsafe. But remember, you cannot build a rich life on a foundation of poverty thinking. The moment you realize your scarcity is a mental habit and not a financial reality, you stop chasing just more. You start chasing the one thing money was supposed to buy in the first place, the freedom to stop thinking about it.